Z Junkie. This morning's podcast is on progression. Where can progression be found? Okay, so where can progression be found in recovery? Progression is found in our steps. Okay, how we advance in our recovery. That's found in our steps. Profoundly, the 11th step. The third step, the 7th step, and the 11th step. We make the choice, okay, to do God's will, okay, instead of the addictions in the third, okay, and we turn our lives over to the care of God instead of that of the addiction, getting what we always got, but worse. Exhausting jails, institutions, and death for everything they have to offer. Okay, so the care of God, so that means our welfare, the God of our understanding takes care of our protection, our fortune, and I mean that by our fortune in emotional, in mental, in spiritual, and yes, in physical. By that, there's a byproduct usually of some type of monetary value because we're embarking on finding our gifts. That's the beauty about recovery. So that third step. So we make that choice. The 7th step, it furthers that because we ask for all our shortcomings to be removed. Okay, in my 7th step, okay, the God of my understanding said my defects of character are going nowhere. However, if I could get back into that first step and honestly accept the defect that I'm in, and surrender that to him, completely defeated, praying only for his forgiveness, only for the knowledge of his will, and his power to be carried out in me. Okay? Never once has he ever failed to remove one. So that's the 7th. Removing our defects of character, okay, and surrendering that of the death grip in which that defect has on me, or surrendering to this, the principle in which the freedom's trying to be offered to me. Either or, okay? A power greater than myself does that. I find impossible to do. I find impossible to surrender that death grip that I've been in for over 50 years. But the God of my understanding, if I could get into acceptance with it, will do that. Okay, and the same thing with the principle and the freedom it's trying to offer me. To experience that freedom is even more difficult than surrendering the death grip, okay, because of the unfamiliarity of the freedom. Okay, so I need to in order to experience that, I need to honestly accept it. Okay, the acceptance and the action of giving consent to receive and undertake something. Okay, first step principles, honesty, acceptance, and surrender. So the acceptance is the action of giving consent to receive and undertake something. I want to receive the power of the God of my understanding, and I want to undertake and start shouldering what it is that I need to see. And then I need to surrender that. If it's a defect, how it's showing up in my life, or the freedom which the principle is trying to offer me. Either or, I must get into honest acceptance and surrender into experience in order to experience either the release of the death grip or the freedom which was trying to be offered to me. That's the first application. It's not just a well-memorized prayer. That's the first application in order for any other application to take place, to give that a chance to become a lifestyle and ingrain it in my life. So the 7th step, removing our shortcomings. Then it's the 11th step. The 11th step says, through these steps, prior steps, including the first I talk about a lot, the 3rd and the 7th, but all the steps up until that point, the 11th step talks about. Okay, through these steps and through our prayer and meditation, okay, we increase our conscious contact, okay, with the God of our understanding, okay, through prayer and meditation. So we increase that conscious contact, okay. Progression of recovery, the advancement, okay, the advancement in experiencing, okay, the advanced state of experiencing the freedom in which the only thing the program offers is the freedom from addiction. The program's the steps. Okay, the only thing the program offers is the freedom from addiction. Okay, and that's the 12 steps. And I don't care what the solution was. Okay, I don't care what your solution was or my solution was. My solution was driving a set in my arm. Okay, somebody else's might be sex. Somebody else's might be codependent relationships. Somebody else's might be alcohol. Somebody else's might be gambling. Somebody else's might be food. These are solutions that we deal with to deal with the onslaught of the addiction. See, the addiction doesn't give a rat's behind about drugs. The addiction, by way of choice I make my own or not, only cares about one thing. Its insidious, insatiable, and parasitic nature needs life force. Period. Leaves us crippled. So crippled we can't make it to the mailbox for a month. We can't even come out of our walk-in closet. Okay? We can't even make it to the bathroom and get out of bed. That's the type of life force it needs, and it sucks it. Okay? It has no use for drugs. The drugs is our only solution that we come up with to survive its onslaught by way of choice we made our own. So, the progression, we always heard about the progression in the addiction. Okay? The progression, oh man, it's getting worse, an advanced state. An advanced state. Well, there's also an advanced state in recovery. Okay? That can't be found, okay, by time. Okay, I see people in the fellowship with time. There's a lot of regression that I see. It's just my experience, strength, and hope. Okay, there's a lot of regression I see because the only byproduct of time, okay, is time. Okay, if that's all I do, you see, I did time before. I've done years. I was locked down a quarter of my life before age 24. I know what doing time is, and I know the only byproduct for time is time. That's it. Okay? I'm not gonna feel any progression in my recovery. I'm not gonna experience any more freedom in my recovery if all I need to do is have abstinence. So, the increase, that progression, that advanced state, of experiencing the freedom in which the program offers, which is the 12 steps, lies within all the steps, but profoundly, the 11th step. Okay? The 11th step, increasing our conscious contact. The more I nurture that, the more I increase that, okay, the more freedom I experience. It's interesting because in recovery, different than the addiction, see, everything in addiction, the deeper I got, the heavier I got. The heavier it was. See, in recovery, it's very interesting. The deeper I get internally, the lighter life becomes. And that comes through the nurture and increasing the conscious contact with the God of my understanding. The 11th step doesn't say we do these steps to increase our conscious contact with the guy sitting next to me, or with our sponsor, or to the ones we're married to. No, it says we increase the conscious contact with the God of our understanding. Through increasing that conscious contact and that communication, thus those communications will also take place and get nurtured and increased. But no, we can't find the nurture and increasing of freedom in time. See, the byproduct of the 11th step could produce time, absolutely. But time will never produce the byproduct in the 11th step. That's a confusion that really needs to be cleared up. And then what we do with that, in the 12th, that selfless service and unconditional love that lies within that 12th step, and take what it is that we learned and carry it to the next guy who's still sick and suffering, no matter what your solution was. Whoever made the addiction their choice and now is getting the life sucked out of them, whatever their solution is. Are they dealing with it with food? Are they dealing with gambling, sex, money, work, codependent relationships, drugs, alcohol? That's the solution. Don't ever get mixed up by that. Yeah, it's the solution. So, we have to stay centered in the steps. Because when you get into a fellowship, okay, you're going to hear a lot of people banging you in the head. You're going to hear a lot of people banging you in the head with opinions and urban legends. Okay, opinions and urban legends. Okay, there's one thing those two things have in common. Okay, and I use this one a lot. Yeah, somebody comes in new. Yeah, take the cotton out of your ears and stuff it in your mouth, man, and shut up. Okay? What does that require with the one speaking it? what that requires for the one speaking it, it requires no work on their part. It requires not giving them their number. It requires not talking to them after the meeting. It requires not getting with them with coffee. It requires them not sharing their experience, strength, and hope. Okay, so maybe that person that you just told to take the cotton out of his ears and shove it in their mouth, okay, maybe ask you to be their sponsor, and maybe you could guide them through the steps. Okay, by way of sharing your experience, strength, and hope. Okay, guidance, not by advice. Oh no, not by advice. Guidance by showing. Okay, by showing. Okay, by sharing the experience, strength, and hope that I got, that shows in my behavior. Okay, the last thing you want to do is advise an addict, no matter what your solution is. Once again, no matter what your solution is. Okay. And you'll hear a lot of those opinions, because in any arena in this world, okay, in the fellowships, outside of the fellowships, where you walk in highly impressionable, there's predators, and they're going to bang you in the head with these opinions and these urban legends, hoping that you'll never establish your own. Once again, they're going to bang you in the head with these opinions and urban legends that require no work on their part, okay, hoping you'll never establish your own, okay, and then they're going to prey on you. They're either going to exploit you for work, sex, whatever their sick thing is, okay, because not everybody's in these rooms for the same reason. So, what do I say? Get back to the literature. Get back to the literature of your fellowship. Okay, get to that literature, and get to that literature fast. Okay, because if you don't have some literature, get some. If you don't have literature pertaining to your fellowship that was written by a mass group conscience in that fellowship, get some. Most profoundly, the 12 steps. The consequences. Okay, the consequences of those urban legends and opinions drive people out of the rooms. Okay, never to be seen again to their death. Okay, the consequences, okay, of the literature, okay, and of the 12 steps, and what they mean and what they stand for. Okay, increased this addict's willingness to stay 100-fold. 100-fold over that of opinion and urban legend. There's no greater thing that I could ever see or witness or experience than an addict arriving at their own understanding. There's no beautifuler thing that I can experience in this life, doing step work or sharing with an addict and having them arrive at their own understanding. No advice in the world can make that happen. Not a million words said over 500 million times can make that happen. By me not giving advice and me by just sharing my experience, strength, and hope. Okay, say step work. I'm experiencing my experience, strength, and hope. My sponsee sharing their experience, strength, and hope. Okay, between those two shares, between those two experiences, is the experience that comes out of the steps. No matter what fellowship you're in, no matter what solution you went to, okay? Not telling the guy to take the cotton out of his ears and shove it in his mouth. No, I get it. There's a balance. There's a balance between listening and sharing. I get that. Like there's a balance in time, okay? But, let's not start repurposing these things, okay? Like the absolute of taking the cotton and shoving it in your mouth, or as if time's going to have a byproduct of increasing conscious contact with the God of one's understanding without actually getting into the work. Like actually, if you just do time, something's going to happen by that other than time itself. So those two experiences being shared, Okay, there's an expedited movement in recovery, in my recovery. Every time I do step work, every time I go to a meeting and share, okay, and put what I heard or put the experience that I took out of that into actual application, okay, there's an exponential movement forward. There's a progression forward in my recovery. There's a more experience of that freedom I'm talking about, that peace and comfort within my own skin, the less need for your approval to be who I am, okay? That peace and comfort that allows me to experience the freedom of this program. So the God of my understanding can continuously bring me to where my heart truly desires to be, which I haven't have a clue what that next move's going to be, but hindsight tells me he never disappoints. So an addict arriving at their own understanding comes by way of sharing experience, strength, and hope, and they're sharing their experience, strength, and hope, no matter how new or how old that experience, strength, and hope may be. You know, it's funny, about a year or so ago, I heard this guy share 2 weeks in, right? The paranoia, okay, because I shot a lot of crystal, I shot a lot of coke. That was my solution to survive the onslaught of the addiction. So anyways, he's sharing about that paranoia. 2 weeks in, the rawness in his share is something that still rings in my ear to this day. Most powerful share I've ever listened to, or one of them, okay, for sure. Okay, that was a guy with 2 weeks. You see, I couldn't get that from a guy with 50 years clean or 40 years clean. The rawness wouldn't have been there anymore. So what I'm trying to say here is that what I could get from a guy with 2 weeks coming in, I can't get from a guy with 40 years. And what I could get from a guy from 40 years, I can't get from a guy from 2 weeks. So what am I saying? We need to hear from each other. We need to hear from each other. Okay, I understand there needs to be a balance between sharing and listening. But taking an absolute, like take this out of your ears, the cotton, and shove it in your mouth, that's funny because we're taking the only solution away from this person, which is their drug of choice, whatever the solution may be, that one chose to survive the onslaught of the life force being sucked up out of them from the addiction. And when they come in, we're just telling them to take the cotton out of theirs and shove it in their mouth. That's not a solution. The solution doesn't exist in the fellowship. The solution exists in the steps. The solution is in the steps. The solution isn't in you. It ain't in this rock. It ain't in that tree. And it ain't in that mountain. Okay? It's in the steps. These could all enhance that. Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. But let's not repurpose it. Okay? Now, when you tell somebody to put down their solution without offering another one, okay, and tell them just to sit there until their head pops out of their ass in 5 years. What? And tell them to sit there until their head pops out of their ass in 5 years. Okay, you just took a solution away and gave them no solution because the only solution lies in those steps. So you took their solution away and gave them no solution. It's inhumane. It's inhumane. That's inhumane. It's not written anywhere. It's not written anywhere. But you know what? It doesn't require any work on the person who's spewing out these opinions in urban legend. And they run rampant because they require no work. And let's face it, a lot of people ain't into the work. They think something magical is going to come about to move them forward in their recovery. So before we want to make a clone out of ourselves, you know what I mean? Before we want to make a clone out of ourselves, because right then and there, the God of my understanding very early on told me, because the only ones that's doing that wants to make a clone, that conformity crap, okay, have little clones of this grand poopah that's walking around as if they arrived some damn where, is the ego. See, the ego, well, it was a 7-step humility principle. Okay, see things for the way they are. See, the ego, the God of my understanding said to me, see, look, no matter, because I study society at universities and all this other stuff. So, okay, no matter what Skinner and Freud and Maslow and Rogers and Jung, and no matter what was written on that ego, what you got to remember is this, is that the ego has about as much to do with your spirit as the addiction did. Nothing. Everything, though, in killing it. Everything, though, in killing it. Okay? It's in that conformity that ego runs rampant. Okay, the ego is right equal with harboring resentments in the closest alignment to the addiction by way of choice we make own or not. Okay, nothing has the ego or the addiction have to do with my spirit other than killing it. And when I want to make a clone or have somebody sounding like me or moving like me, okay, do you understand what I'm saying? That's that clone thing, okay? All right? And there's no room for that. Okay, because we come in with nothing unique, which is great for the identification. But the steps bring us because we're arriving at our own understanding of the God of our understanding. And the God of our understanding is directing us finally where we need to go in order to find that freedom and find that peace and comfort and find that purpose. Okay, so we can get a lifestyle out of this thing I'm talking about. But you need that actual application before the lifestyle. Okay? Before the actual application, you need the understanding of the principles that lie within each step. You have to do the writing before that understanding. And then you have to do the reading before that writing. So you must read, you must write, you must get some understanding by sharing what it is that you wrote. Put that into actual application of principles within that step and all the steps prior. And you get some lifestyle out of that. But recovery moves exponentially, okay? When I nurture and increase the conscious contact with the God of my understanding. And how that happens is when I freely share with me, okay? Strike that, when I freely share what was given to me to the next guy. Through meetings, through step work. Step work's a beautiful thing. Through step work. Through service, through society, and then I start understanding and discovering self. Progression doesn't lie in time. Time will never produce progression in recovery, that advanced state of experiencing the freedom which is the only thing offered by our program, which is the 12 steps, no matter what your solution was. Time in and of itself will just produce time. Progression lies within that 11th step. It lies within all those steps, but it lies within that 11th step. And then carrying that to the next guy, okay, who's experiencing the onslaught of the addiction by having a life force sucked out of them. No matter what their solution may be, dealing with it. Food, sex, money, drugs, alcohol, codependent relationships, okay, on and on and on and on and on. Yes, to move forward in recovery is moving forward in the 11th step. And the steps are put in order for a reason. And taking that and carrying it to the next guy, which that 12th step is, with unconditional love and selfless service. Progression, profoundly, is nurturing and increasing that 11th step.